The Void Rig is built. Let's go get that now. Let's grab it right out of the foundry. Where are you hiding? There you are. Void Rig acquired. And this is the last requirement to begin the new war. Now I know that DE said on the dev stream that they're going to have loaner ones upcoming soon. However, I wish to see if Dan can struggle his way through it first. I have acquired so far, no Void Rig mods. And I have my Imperator with its Imperator modding, which I can't particularly invest all that well into, so it'll just have to be what it is. Which basically leaves me in this position here. I could swap it out for the Mausolon, but I'd also then need to level up the Mausolon to be able to put anything onto it, because I am Mastery 7. So no matter which way you shake it, that's going to be a little bit of an awkward one for Dan. But I want to see if I can make that happen, and worst case scenario, I have to abandon dealing with the quest, wait for the update, and then use Loner. Either which way, I'll be able to get through the quest. And so with Dan as equipped as he's ever going to be, because I'm not going to put in the time and mess around otherwise, it's time to get started with this really, really long quest. There's no point putting it all in the video. If you've not seen the quest, spoilers, you can check the replay if you really wish to. If you have seen the quest, if you've already done that, you don't really need a reminder stuffed into this video as to how it works. So if you do wish to catch Dan's experience of this, the VOD for that will be linked in the video description. But let's get started with the new war. This is Dan, a lone tenno with a quest to defeat the Murmur. I'm TheKengineer, let's go 0 to hero. Well, that was a bit of a ride. One quest out of the way, as I mentioned. If you want to see how Dan went through that, you can check out the replay, which is linked in the video description. But most crucially, if we go into our inbox here, we have the rewards from the quest. Most notable of all is the Natterug. The rest of all this, whilst nice to have some boosters, is not that significant, although we do have some very, very important quests, especially Angels of the Zariman, which will allow us to unlock yet more nodes to make our way towards Steel Path. But for now, let us have a look at the Natterug, and after that, we can get through these quests which have been added to our inventory. I'm sorry, heck, you've had your time, but you are now to be replaced by something far more effective. And whilst it is effective, it is also rank 0. But it has plenty of polarities to get started with. Let's see about adding in some power to that. If we slap in our Serration, we can slap in our speed trigger, and we realize just how few mods I actually have. I don't think I have found a split chamber yet, which is actually quite impressive if we're honest about it. So aside from quests, Dan is now onto something of a resource and upgrade grind. So it turns out one of the places we can farm it is from this survival node here, not the nightmare one, just a normal survival mode, up to 15 minutes, because every rotation B gives us a chance to get the mod. Now it's not a high chance, but it is a way to get hold of the mod, and it is also a way to get the affinity to level up the Natterug. It's not the best location, but it is a combination. So bringing the two together, let's give it a try. Maybe we'll get lucky on the first 15 minutes. Maybe. Well, that mission is complete, and I did get a multi-shot mod for shotguns, having just put the heck away. That's mean, game. That is mean. How dare. After a couple rounds of that mission, it turns out Dan did not manage to get split chamber for that multi-shot mod to go onto the Natterug. However, it occurs to me, Dan is missing quite a few other mods as well. In fact, if we open up the current modding here on the Natterug, I'm having to use bladed rounds for critical damage, because if we search for crits, I don't have even Vital Sense. Some core mods are simply missing from Dan's arsenal, and if those two are missing, there's a good chance I'm missing quite a few others, which are going to be distributed all over the system. And that is why we're looking at Neptune. Because we have both Rhino and the Natterug, this should be an easy setup to take on the Index. The Index is a very good source of credits. It's also a source of some gold mods, which we don't really care about for themselves too much, but it does mean if we can get plenty of credits, we can also then do Transmutation. Transmutation with only a handful of credits is not a good idea, but if we can get a few million credits, which yes, is going to take a bit of time on the index, that means Dan can transmute a lot of different mods. This will help us gear up all kinds of different parts of our arsenal. So with that said, let's see if Dan can handle the index. Roll through that.
Index points up for grabs.
Start taking them out.
Points in the open. The index is up. Annual Corp is working its way out of debt.
There we go.
Rally on the index. Annual Corp.
Very good. I'm holding on to 17. 17 is enough to win, so let's go turn these in.
Make it to the vault.
Ta-da! Turns out Dan can do the index. Now 2 million credits isn't a lot, but it is enough that I'm happy to sink some of that into some transmutation. At 36,000 credits per 4 gold mods, it's not a cheap process, but we can now afford to attempt that process. Let's see if I get something good. I already have Intensify. That was not something good. Bullet Dance for Gunblade. Hey, that's a nice one to pick up. I'm not using Gunblade. I can sell this one for a significant amount of platinum, which will allow me to afford further upgrades as I need them. I haven't gone through any of my starter platinum so far, but still, having such a valuable mod that I'm not going to use myself is certainly a pickup. Necromech Rage. Convert damage on health to energy. This is the kind of thing you'd want to put onto the Void Rig if you felt the need to actually use the Void Rig. Now, I don't feel the need to use the Void Rig. I managed to go through the entire new war unmodded, but this is a very, very, very good mod to get for the Necromech. But right now, we're not looking for Necromech stuff. We're looking for, well, a lot of anything else, really. So let's transmute a lot more of these mods that we don't need to have. So I have been unlucky when it comes to transmutation this time. Continuing through with these is going to be a waste of my time at this point, so I'm going to step out of that. It was a nice try. The index is completely accessible to us. I just got a little bit unlucky on the gambling after. With our now fully level 30 bow, let's take on Dan's first ever sortie. It's a mobile defense, sabotage and rescue, which should be a very easy way to get into this. With the conditions, electromagnetic anomalies, no real concern there. Enemy physical enhancement, no real concern there. Enemy elemental enhancement, no real concern there. Especially as that one's just a rescue. This should be very manageable. But let's find out if I'm correct about that. First, we need to unlock Eris. Well, that's ominous.
That's a hollow Warframe being puppeted by infested flesh. Put it out of its misery.
Very easily. Dealt with. Wait, what? Okay, now it's dealt with. But that should be enough for us to access the Sortie. Let's see if it agrees. It does. Wonderful. I believe that this will also count for clearing the node on Eris. So we're making double progress here, trying out a Sortie, and we're going to get the benefit of clearing out another part of the star chart. Complete the Sortie, and our reward is 4,000 endo. For Dan, that is a very, very welcome reward, alongside the credits. There we go. This brings Dan now up to 6,000 endo, which is not a terrible amount to have, absolutely. But it's only so good if we have mods to apply it to. New day, new perspective, and I realise I was being a little bit of an idiot. In fact, some of you have probably already written comments about it before getting to this part of the video. Earlier, I was doing survival here on Palace, because at 15 minutes there was a chance to get a mod I was looking for, when also on Rotation B, I has the exact same drops from Excavation here in Hyricon. Now, you may not be too familiar with how rotations work, but let me spell this out for you. 15 minutes to get to Rotation B on Palace versus 3 Excavators on Hyricon. That's not 15 minutes, that is a lot quicker. That was entirely my mistake, but it's fine. So now we have this much faster way to attempt to get those very, very crucial mods, including Split Chamber. Let's get right into it. Now some people might be wondering, how are you going to do an excavation with no defensive frame? I've got Volt, I've got Rhino, I've got Umbra, I've got Caliban. None of those can really hold down an area per se. But the thing is that excavation doesn't require you to be perfect, it just requires you to be good enough. And so by using the fuel cells, these power cells, to recharge the shields, on top of just a good amount of killing, we can keep on top of it all. This is one of the highest enemy density missions you can get prior to the Steel Path. As you can see, we have a reasonable handle on it. If the shields do get a little bit low, well, we just repower them.
This excavator is fully powered. Look what we just uncovered.
There we go, and we got steel fiber. Darn. Once we hit the 3 excavations, we dip out. That took 8 minutes rather than 15, and that's with 2 failed excavators.
Excavation complete. Look what we found.
That was a much quicker run. I only got Hornet Strike, which is not what I'm looking for. 6 minutes 26 seconds, however. Much faster than doing a survival.
Look what we just uncovered. Go to
And here we go. Yes! Split Chamber is acquired. Ah, that took a few missions actually. That took a few missions, more than you've seen here.
another fuel cell.
I didn't record them all, I didn't need to record them all. What's the point of showing you every single mission? But there we go. Split Chamber is acquired. Let's put that straight onto the Nataruk. Let's see, where can I go into here? I suppose it can replace that bladed rounds. In it goes, and I don't actually have enough capacity to fully level it. I'm going to have to former this to get even more power out of it. Let's get this former going. In terms of which former I'm going to use, seeing as we've got the dash polarity here for Hellfire, dash polarity for Stormbringer, we're already using 4 V polarities, I think a dash polarity is the sensible pickup. So let's do exactly that, right there, and done. Oh dear God, the way it just strips the mods off.
Dig complete.
Alright, that's
Your
that
hard
one.
work has just been rewarded.
And yes! Yes! And that's another core mod acquired. Vital Sense. Please don't ask how many excavations it took. Let's open up the Nataruk. We can take off bladed rounds. I know it's given the same bonus, but this one requires us to aim to get it and is on kill specifically. This one is just always active. We can upgrade that one fully. Now that's fully upgraded, we have got ourselves basically the core mod setup. Our pure damage, attack speed, crit chance, crit damage, multi-shot, and triple elemental setup. In order to go further with this, we can spend the additional capacity here on upgrading these mods. There we are. So this now maxes out the capacity of the Nataruk as it stands. We are missing a couple pips out of Serration, 1 pip out of Stormbringer, but otherwise all of the mods for this very core setup is now fully ranked up. The only real improvement we can get at this point is to find better mods. For example, we could replace Point Strike with Critical Delay. As much as it has a minus to fire rate, we have Speed Trigger, which will counteract that. So that works out for the Nataruk. Beyond that, it will be going into Galvanized mods or getting a hold of a Steel Path Arcane, which is a little bit beyond us at this moment in time, considering we are nowhere near Steel Path. Separate to that, we have got the upgrading available on the kit gun. In order to upgrade this one further would require me to first actually gild the kit gun. At the very least, I can look to getting this upgraded by gilding it, giving it a polarity, giving us the freedom to then put in yet more modding power. As for over on the Zoris, what we have over here is as ranked up as it needs to be on Corrupt Charge. Power Throw is at full power, Organ Shatter, True Seal, Pressure Point, all at full power, so it's Killing Blow. Shocking Touch is just a little bit down, and Fury a modest bit down, but Fury isn't the biggest deal to the Zoris, and Shocking Touch is adding on to what the Zoris is already good at. So in terms of a setup here, this one is actually plenty fine. And then that leaves us with Rhino. Let's grab that auger message, give us the extra duration, which will come in handy for Raw in particular. There we are, only 310 endo, a small ask for our present situation, and one I am happy to pay. In truth, swapping out redirection for stretch, as much as it's not on the correct polarity, still works out, although auger message would be cheaper there, because now we can upgrade stretch to get that range bonus. And with the remaining capacity, we might as well send Streamline and Flow to their maximums as well. Any remaining investment can go into Equilibrium and Steel Fiber. Investment into Steel Fiber will give us more power out of our Iron Skin without having to absorb damage, but it's going to come at a considerable cost because with that many pips into it. And the same is true for Equilibrium. As much as we get more value out of it, it's incremental compared to the cost. We have diminishing returns on our endo expenditure on high pip mods like these. Just why Intensify, Continuity, Streamline, Flow, Stretch, all of these ones are so beautiful due to their sheer lack of pips to get maximum value out of them. Now why am I going over these builds and talking about maximizations, talking about the limits we can take them to? Well, the very obvious next step from here is to move through the quests which are post New War, and that is where levels start to ramp up even further. So far we've made our way up to Sedna, where we have got levels 30 to 34. Sedna needs to be worked through. It's something that I'll get onto as and when it is time. Once we get into the Zariman, once we get into the other half of Deimos, the levels are going to climb very noticeably. So in order to attend to that, we need our gear to be well set up, to be well invested, because we're not going to get access to Galvanize upgrades or Steel Path Arcanes until we've already done those missions. Let's head on over to Rudzud. Other services, we would like to gild our kit gun, and it shows we need 5,000 standing and 10 shelter debt bonds. Plus, we must also be doer or higher in Solaris United to unlock gilding. That's a few steps together, okay. Let's see about those steps then. So first things first, we head on over here. Verify, is the next rank doer? It's Outworlder. In fact, doer's all the way up at rank 3. That is actually not what I want to spend the time on. In very short order, we are going to be accessing a new set of weapon choices and something new for the secondary slot, which means getting to the point of gilding this Spore Lacer to try and get the value out of it there. I'm not sure I really want to be doing that. If we need AoE, we've got the Zoris. If we need broad corridor clearing, we've got the Nataruk. The Spore Lacer has been good to us, but ranking up to rank 3 with the Solaris is an insufficient use of our time as far as I'm concerned. So in terms of operation gearing up, this is a partial success. Rhino, sufficiently geared. Nataruk, very well modded. Zoris, very well modded. Kit Gun has hit a bit of a roadblock. Mostly, this is a loadout capable of handling all the missions and quests on the star chart, including the quest we have ahead of us, Angels of the Zariman, Whispers in the Walls, the works. Dan is ready to make the final sprint towards the Steel Path.